Quick note before I start, some of these games do contain references and content surrounding self-harm, so if you're uncomfortable with that type of topic, I would recommend clicking off. Our first game is a parody of the horror game genre, but holds up as a genuinely scary experience. Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion starts out with cheap jump scares using these cheap looking cardboard cutouts, and generally keeps a cute, funny energy towards the beginning. The titular character looks and sounds harmless, and gets the player into a sense of comfort before throwing them into a chase. The chases are stressful, complemented by music unique to each of the main specimens, letting you know that you are being chased without giving you time to look back. The unknowing memorization of the previous rooms becomes essential to your survival, as the repetitiveness lends itself to the speed at which you find yourself creating distance between you and your follower. And those stupid signs, you'll grow to hate them, because they will show up when you least expect it, and they will scare the shit out of you. My only warnings would be that the game can be really loud, and really heavy on the flashing lights at some points, so I would turn the volume down and your eyes off. I wouldn't play the game if you have epilepsy. Otherwise, it's a good game for those who don't want to take things too seriously. And if you enjoy it, there are DLCs you can buy to extend your experience, or you can choose to buy the HD version. Yume Nikki is like an acid trip. Sometimes it's calm, other times it's horrifying, and throughout the whole thing, nothing makes sense. As the player, you are given freedom to explore the worlds to their fullest extent, while picking up effects, which can be used to change aspects of the player or interact with the environment. It's definitely not a balls-to-the-walls horror experience, but the art and level design is genuinely unsettling, and there are a few points that are undeniably scary. There is no linear path to take, and it's up to you to explore at your own pace. That being said, if you find yourself easily bored without specific directions, I recommend either completing the game using a guide, which you'll probably need anyway considering the sheer size of the playable area, or skipping this one. It's not everyone's THC-infused cup of tea. Coming from the creators of mouthwashing, in How Fish is Made, you are given one decision to make with your life: up or down. 1 second you'll be staring at a pile of dead fish, and the next you'll be watching a tongue-eating louse throwing it back while singing you a song. It's a pretty short and definitely more story and art driven, but the downtime you get while flopping forwards gives you something to think about, while taking in the grotesque and dreary backgrounds. There's also a Katamari style mouthwashing themed DLC, as ridiculous as that sounds, so after you beat the original game, you can check that out for free. I would say that SCP Containment Breach is probably the most traditional horror game on here. You walk around, find items, use said items to move further along in your environment, and avoid unspeakable horrors the entire time. Levels are randomized by seed, so every run will be different. The game has a lot of love put into it, from the lore tidbits on paper to the random guard's very strong opinions regarding tuna casserole.
Tuna casserole, on the other hand, is a disgusting abomination, and it should be locked up in here with the rest of these freaks.
And if you're looking for a game with the most lore, this one probably has it. There's an entire wiki dedicated to the SCP's foundation and its various anomalies, and you can probably find an hour-long video on most of them. I will say, this game is difficult, at least for me, but that helps make it scary. You never really feel safe and are almost always seconds away from being chased. That being said, I would rather chop my balls off with one of those 1,000-degree knives than try to beat this game on the one life mode. Touted as perfect, the best game ever, and better than Starfield, Yujiro's Mansion is arguably the scariest game I've ever played. Stuck in a mansion with the world's strongest man, you must steal his belongings. Without even an offering of apple fritters for your life, you stand no chance of surviving a physical encounter. On a more serious note, Doki Doki Literature Club is another game that meets the cute exterior or interior criteria. It's presented as a dating sim in the form of a visual novel, and turns out to be a genuine masterpiece. I'd be surprised if you hadn't heard of this one before. What definitely did surprise me though was finding out that this game was free. Being a certified cheapskate myself, I originally experienced this game years ago through some YouTuber. But playing it myself was a fresh experience, especially this long after the game originally came out. There are also definitely some things you will only notice in retrospect. This one's also got a paid version with additional content if it turns out to be your thing. It might even be long enough that the gooners have left the community for some other poor fandom.
I know who you are. That isn't your wife. That's fictional, mentally ill high schooler. I'm watching you.
I'll make sure to leave the links to all the games in the description, and if I forgot your favorite game, please tell me how much of a horrible person I am, and I might just make my next video on Scrimblow Bimblo's Haunted Doorknob or whatever it is.